Everybody ready?
Sure.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us at City Hall for the announcement of the One Providence Initiative. I know that the results and the reality of last week's election are still fresh in the minds of many people in our city, as they are in mine. Because of Tuesday's result, I am more convinced than ever that the work we do here at the local level is essential to safeguarding the principles that define us as a community. We cannot stand idly as members of our community are bullied, targeted, and scapegoated on the national stage. And with so much uncertainty in the days ahead, it's important that we come together as a city to support one another in every way that we can. That's why I am doubling down on my vision of one Providence and on advancing a society that reflects the values that have already made our country great. Values such as inclusion, values such as equity, and respect for the dignity of every single individual. I'm happy to announce that each and every single week between now and Inauguration Day, I will be announcing a new policy, initiative, or a gathering or event to give reassurance to our most vulnerable and marginalized residents that the city stands with them. These initiatives and policy announcements will focus on local immigration reform, implicit and embedded racism, criminal justice reform, police community relations, environmental justice, and support for women and families, Muslims and religious minorities, and the LGBTQ community. These announcements will be an overt expression of our values as a city. While folks may feel threatened by what they hear at the national level, I want them to know that they are supported and they are safe here in Providence. To begin with this One Providence initiative, we'll be hosting a community forum on Wednesday, November 16th at 7 p.m. at Iglesia Visión Evangélica, which is located at 1014 Broad Street. The forum is an opportunity to bring together neighbors, to connect residents with available community resources, and to allow input on what their biggest concerns are in light of the results of the presidential election. Representatives from various community organizations will also be leading us in breakout sessions, which will focus on issues like the ones I just mentioned that have brought great worry to folks across our city. I invite community members to attend and show support for all of our neighbors. In recent days, I've also been in touch with mayors from throughout the country who have similar inclusive and diverse communities like we do here in Providence. I am proud to say that we are standing with cities such as Los Angeles, New York City, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Chicago, and dozens of others who have made it clear that we will not sacrifice a single resident and we will continue to protect our communities. To us, it is important that every resident can live their lives without fear or being persecuted, and that includes our entire immigrant community. Let me be clear on this. We will continue enforcing our current policy to ensure that law-abiding residents can do just that and continue to live law-abiding lives regardless of inconsequential civil infractions. Today, more than ever, Providence needs to lead the way in creating an inclusive, compassionate, and forward-thinking society, and our One Providence initiative is how we are starting this endeavor. Thank you all. I'll take questions.
Mayor, what kind of concerns have people expressed to you in the aftermath of the election? How are people fearful?
People are very fearful. You know, some of the most troubling concerns that have reached me either directly or indirectly are from kids in our schools. We have kids who have asked their teachers whether their friends who are Latino are going to get deported. Kids know nothing about documented, undocumented, immigrant, Latino. All they know is that some members of their community have been targeted on TV, and they're concerned that they're going to lose their friends. I also have another situation where a child a student asked a teacher whether their friend, their mother's friend, who's married to another woman, whether they will now have to get divorced. And so kids have been watching for the past year and a half, and it registers in their minds. And even though they can't make out the details, they know that what has been spoken at the local level has very direct, deep, and meaningful impact even at their home level. And so that's part of what has been so troubling. But across the board, I hear it from the immigrant community, I hear it from the reproductive rights community, I hear it from the environmental justice community. Folks are concerned about what may happen come January 20th. And as I mentioned before, that makes me more convinced than ever that the work we do here at the local level to make sure that we advance these principles is more important than it's ever been.
You run the risk of jeopardizing federal funds, perhaps? Is that your understanding? If you don't abide by the federal rules regarding detaining people who are undocumented?
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. What I know is that we're part of a coalition of dozens of both large, medium, and small-sized cities from throughout the United States who have mentioned that they are not going to change their immigration policies as a result of the next president. And so we stand together with them. And I do have to say that I feel encouraged by what I've heard from the president-elect and his transition team, in that they are not going to focus on otherwise law-abiding residents who are living law-abiding lives. That, they've mentioned, is not their focus. And in fact, their focus is going to be on people who are violent criminals. And so that is encouraging, but all the same, all the more reason why we need to reach out to our community and let them know that they're protected, they're valued, and they're safe.
What would you say to critics who are saying that, right now Mr. Trump has made campaign promises, but he doesn't have a policy yet, that it's too soon to speak out? Your reaction to that?
So all we can go on is by a person's words. Now, it is my sincere hope that what he has said up until this point is not truly what he means or what he intends to do. But we can only go on what he has said that he wants to do. And that's why people in the community are so concerned. And that's what this One Providence initiative is about. Give them reassurances that regardless of what they're hearing at the local level, that they are valued, they're safe, and they're part of our community here in Providence. So no one knows what's coming down the pike. Perhaps not even the president-elect knows what's coming down the pike. But we want to be ready, but first and foremost, give reassurance to all of our residents that here in Providence we're going to stand together.
Mayor, on Saturday you actively supported the continuing pursuance of the Community Safety Act. What is the renewed importance of that act for you, and what do you think are the concrete steps that you feel like you need to take in order to show your dedication to that?
So we've been working on the Community Safety Act for about a year now, and we've been coming closer and closer together on the language for it. So between now and Inauguration Day, we will be introducing the CSA into the City Council and pushing to make sure that it gets approved and voted on forthright. It is my priority to make sure that we do this, along with so much else that impacts police-community relations. I announced about a month ago that Providence will be the first city in New England to go to an entire department with body cameras. And in places where body cameras have been used, it shows that it's a game changer in terms of those relations. But there's so much more than that. There's the training that's involved, there's accountability that's involved, there's the entire culture within the police department and its relationship with programs in the community. Those are part of a much greater effort and initiative. And we can't forget that it's not just about the election. It's everything that we've witnessed in cities across the United States for the past couple of years. So with all of that in mind, we recognize how important of a priority it is to make sure that those connections between the community and the police department are as strong as possible, so that, God forbid, we never have to experience what some of these other cities have.
Mayor, do you worry an initiative like this will make Providence a magnet for other undocumented immigrants?
So that argument has been used in a lot of other places, and it's never borne out. What this is about, this initiative is much broader. Right? It's about every marginalized community, every underrepresented community. So everything from the environmental justice community, to the women's rights community, to the Muslim American community, to the immigrant community, and frankly, everyone who has been fearful of what the president-elect has mentioned during the campaign trail. That's what this is about. And the overarching message in all of this is that anyone who is concerned about what they're hearing at the local level, I want you to know that here in Providence, we're going to stick together, and we have your back. So that's what this initiative is about.
As regards,
Yeah.
Sorry, any policies that you have to protect people from getting deported could be bypassed if their fingerprints are already being submitted to the federal government?
Sorry?
Are you concerned at all that whatever policy you say that the city has could be bypassed by federal authorities if their the people who are arrested, if their fingerprints are going to federal government?
So something that we have to be extremely clear on, that if someone is a violent offender, if someone is committing a crime, then not only Providence, but every city throughout the United States, those folks are detained. If there's a criminal detainer from ICE, those folks are detained and they're handed over to immigration officials. If, however, we're talking about civil detainers, folks who perhaps folks who have committed a misdemeanor, non-violent crime, or even more importantly, folks who haven't committed any crime whatsoever, that's where the city will continue its policy of processing them through our system and not cooperating with ICE any more than is required under federal law. That's what we have been doing up until this point, and that's going to be our policy going forward.
But do you think that will stop them from being deported? I mean, is there any evidence that will stop ICE from finding out where those people are going to be in court and then just proceeding with the deportation?
So absolutely, and if you want a background, I can give you, we can walk you through exactly how that process works. But the important thing here is that we are going to continue our policy, and our policy is not holding people for immigration or civil immigration detainers. And what that means is that we process them just as we would any other case, and we will continue to do that. The practical effects of that through the process, we're happy to fill you in on background, but we're going to continue our policy in that same way. And we're going to do it just as dozens of other cities throughout the United States have already committed that they are not going to change their immigration policies. We are standing together with them.
Do you have any estimates as to the number of undocumented immigrants within the city?
Not of the city, but I remember about 5 years ago, the latest estimate was about 30,000 living in the state.
as regards the immigration part, Mayor, how personal is this to you?
Well, it's personal in the sense that, I have always seen my job as bringing every one of our residents together. And whether folks voted for me or not, I see myself as their mayor. So long as you live here in the city and you're invested in the city in that way, my job is to make sure that you're a part of the community that we're building and that we do this together. And so it's very personal in that sense. Now, I'm looking out for every single one of our residents, and we will not sacrifice any one of them in this process. But also, we're reaching out beyond immigration. There are a lot of people who have felt threatened. There are a lot of people who are scared. And we're letting them know and reassuring them that here in the city, we're going to stick together and we have your back.
You started saying you somewhat took heart from what you had heard from the president-elect. What did you take from his appointments to his top staff, his chief of staff, Reince Priebus, Mr. Bannon, principal advisor, who has, it's been said and reported that he has somewhat of an anti-Semitic bent.
Yeah, it's all the more reason for concern. However, they're going to be laying out what their priorities and what their policies are going to be, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, what's important to me is to reassure all of our residents here in the city that we're going to stick together, that they're valued, that they're part of who we are, and that we have their back.
Have any other mayors in the state reached out to you about joining with this, like Pawtucket, Central Falls, the Urban Core?
They have not reached out to me. They have not reached out to me directly.
Right. And how about the state? Has the state reached out and has what their impression of this is yet?
They have not reached out to me either.
One more question?
What other mayors have you talked to directly about this in other states?
So I've been in contact with both Mayor de Blasio and with Mayor Garcetti.
All right, thank you guys. You guys want to do one
Before,
more?
I'm sorry for
Sure.
interrupting. Any questions for Commissioner Parry? So, sir, did you have a...
Matt, he may be able to fill you in.
Yeah.
Commissioner, do you want to just give a quick update on what our policy is with immigration?
Sure, only those individuals that we arrest their fingerprints are run, 10 print card. 10 fingerprints are electronically submitted to the database, eventually in West Virginia, that the FBI run. In that database, it used to be the Secure Communities Program. Now it's called PEP, the Priority Enforcement Program computer. That individual is run against that database. And if there's any, either deportation, if there's a deportation warrant, we'll know about it because it's in the computer in which we check every individual. But when we submit the 10 print card, if there's any either interest in that person, then ICE is notified electronically, automated, and it's up to ICE to either get down to the district court in which that defendant's going to be arraigned or follow up with that individual. That's how the process works. If there's a criminal deportation warrant, every police officer in the United States, if they come into contact with that individual, will know of that warrant and will act on that warrant and arrest because it's a criminal deportation. That means they've had a prior felony conviction and they've been deported from the United States. I hope that helps.
All right, thank you guys.
Last question, Mayor, if I might.
Sure, one last question.
You're wearing a safety pin.
I am.
Tell us about it.
So what I've mentioned today is that my main priority is making sure that our residents know that we're sticking together and that this is a safe place for them. And so what better symbol of that than a safety pin? I know that folks internationally and also throughout the country are wearing this safety pin as a symbol that this is a safe place for them. And that's what it represents. Great. Thank you, everyone.